Okay, so this is going to be like a short video, possibly. If it's boring, I will probably cut it and not release it. But I thought I would want to kind of go through trying to find where these dashboard widgets kind of live within the operating system. Because if I remember correctly, these dashboards were all HTML, CSS, and JavaScript based. They're all web technologies. And I thought maybe I could kind of find the source and figure out if I can kind of tweak them at all or kind of look at the resources that go into how they're being rendered and everything. Because if I remember correctly, there's this stock app. Also, just love those animations. I know it's a little slow on this remote screen sharing that I'm doing with this. My development old Mac Pro, but I just want to see if I can find this app within the operating system to kind of see if I can find the assets. I have a rough idea of where these maybe exist, but I may not be able to find them very easily. I know I could easily Google this, but at the same time, I don't particularly want to. I just want to kind of explore, see what I can do just by myself, and see if there's a place where I can find these. I thought they live under application support, but they don't. I'm also thinking I am probably under my user library and not the actual system library. Yeah, this looks more like it. Dashboard. Let's look. This is also a fresh install of macOS 10, 10.4.10, actually. Capture, small PDF services, Perl. Oh, right. This is back when a lot of languages were kind of like shipped out of the box with the system. I remember if PHP is. Oh, wow. Yeah. See, so PHP kind of built right into the terminal. No brew needed or anything else, which is always kind of fun. I guess Perl must be there as well. Yep. Version 5.8.6. I've never written Perl, but yeah, kind of cool back when Macs would come with a lot more like developer stuff just out of the box. Lists, subservers. Widgets. Okay, here we go. So this is all of the widgets, and if we take a look at one of these, it is a .wdgt file.
Okay, so I took that .wdgt file, brought over into my modern Mac, and I am looking at it right now in Nova. And this is sort of the overall project. I took some time to look through some of this, which is kind of interesting. And I think I'm just going to kind of highlight certain elements for this particular video. One of the interesting things is like how similar a lot of these assets are to the version that shipped on the iPhone. So here's sort of like a table thing, and also like how it has the feel of the iPhone. Even these buttons look really similar to kind of like how the early iPhone OS operating systems looked. Also thought it was interesting that it does have a default.png file, which is the same as like every iPhone OS app. The splash screen file is called default.png. So it's kind of interesting that these widgets, again, having that direct lineage to iPhone and to iPhone OS, a lot of the kind of app stuff when they were debating between mobile and native, it kind of showed up here in dashboard widgets without many people noticing because dashboard widgets came out in 2005, while the first iPhone came out in 2007, and the first SDK really didn't come out until 2008, if I remember correctly, about a year later. So the assets are really definitely interesting. Info.plist file, which is also kind of similar to most Apple projects or applications. I did think it was interesting though that it has some like keys in here for like network access because this is the stocks widget, but also like almost like a default width and height, and defining the main HTML file and the main parser file. Kind of interesting info.plist. So what was interesting here was that there's a commented URL here that would go to quote.com, but it's been replaced with a apple.com domain, which made me kind of wonder if they knew like, hey, this stock widget that's going to ship on all these devices and within Tiger, At some point, maybe they want to like switch out the backend without breaking those, and that's why they kind of, or without having to push an update even, why they like move the hosting of their .asp file to their own domain, so that in the backend, if they wanted to switch quote.com to like Yahoo Finance or something else, they could easily swap down the backend, and as long as it was returning the same kind of responses, the widgets would work without much of a hiccup. So I thought that was kind of interesting. This is just the XML parser that parses the data from different elements that they needed to load up the widget itself. Nothing too crazy here other than, like I said, these domains and this key, which is this is Apple Widget TS, which I thought is kind of interesting in the way they capitalized on this. Not sure if this is supposed to be like a API key kind of situation. Stocks.html is the main HTML file that powers the stocks widget itself. One kind of interesting thing to note was that there were actually default elements in Tiger that ship with Tiger, and this stocks app, and I believe some of the others I looked at as well, all kind of reference it. And these are like resources that any widget in theory could have referenced because they always lived in the operating system within Tiger. So like these were kind of referencing this generic button.js and some like helper kind of functions, which I thought was kind of interesting. This is sort of the basic layout for the stocks app, essentially. A lot of this gets overwritten in the .js file where a lot of the logic kind of goes. This is sort of the stock titles of all the default ones that we're kind of shipping with the app. And yeah, this is pretty much all of the logic of the app, all of the DOM modifications, any kind of styling that was done based on a percentage or any kind of like variables was all here. This is also funny, like this comment, ouch, position dependent code, first child, not the best. That's why I love stuff like this that isn't compiled from Apple, is because you get to see this sort of commentary that, with a compiled app, it's a little bit harder to see this, but because this whole thing is JS and HTML and web technologies, you can kind of see all this because you can open it up and it's just a, package of files essentially. This is also funny. Don't let one exception lose all the data. I feel like it's a quote to live by on most coding projects. These all technically shipped with Tiger out of the box. So it's kind of interesting to see those. If I had to guess, there was probably like one or two people working on all the widgets for Dashboard when Tiger came out, because of like Apple size and the way they kind of like separated stuff from podcasts I've listened to in those early days. So if I had to guess, a lot of these comments and a lot of this code was probably written by like one, maybe two people. And that's sort of what powered the whole stocks widget. I also still find it so fascinating that when you look at the stocks widget and the iOS 4 / pre-iOS 7 widget app, how similar the two of them really are, and how, I was listening, I think it was on a podcast or on a Computer History Museum oral history episode, where they were kind of talking how Dashboard was like the first time they were trying to experiment with what iPhone apps would possibly look like. And that was also when the debate between using web technologies for iPhone versus native technologies for iPhone would kind of was all kind of going on at the same time. Obviously, native stuff won out because that's how we got Cocoa Touch and a bunch of the native frameworks for iPhone OS. If anyone knows anyone who actually worked on Dashboard back in the day at Apple and was like no longer with the company and is willing to kind of discuss their history with Dashboard, that'd be really fantastic to get in touch with them, because I find Dashboard as this like really fun sandbox that Apple built, not just for like themselves with like the animations they did and all this kind of stuff, a lot of it leading into the iPhone. It was also like a playground for other developers to kind of build small little widgets that were just kind of easy to install, easy to manage, lightweight, and weren't full, Cocoa applications back in, Tiger. Also great little comments like, just to be safe should never happen. Little things like that just show like that a lot of this was written by probably just one or two people, and it was all probably rushed, if I had to guess, to get it out for Tiger. And, for the most part, it worked. So hopefully you enjoyed this kind of like exploration of Dashboard and widgets and found that kind of interesting. I'm probably going to be doing a little bit more on Dashboard. There's a couple other ideas I have on the Dashboard kind of system and widgets as well. Again, it was just like a fun kind of sandbox for everyone to be playing in the Tiger and like kind of leopard and snow leopard days. So it's a fun thing to kind of explore again. Hopefully you found it interesting, and thank you for watching.